Yo, JD here, and as you can see, we are back on F1 22 as always. But in today's video, this is my very first competitive race that I have done on the new game, and this is a social race that I did with a league called GFO, which are among the fastest drivers on PlayStation. Predominantly Greek drivers take part in this, but they invited me for their social race, and as I said in my stream, I think these races are so important in discovering new things about the game. And I actually did this race over a week ago now, and since then I feel I've improved quite drastically, and it really was with thanks to races such as this, where you can get such valuable information in terms of how the SERPs work, what the right approach is in terms of the ERS and everything such as that. So yeah, this was a pretty good experience for me. Definitely took a lot of things from this, and I actually did a social race recently at Silverstone, which I will be uploading this week, and I think you'll be able to see from that race of how much more comfortable I feel within the game itself. So here we're at Miami, and coming to this, looking back on this, I wasn't fully comfortable with the track, being a little bit more tentative on the traction and on the braking itself, because this is actually the first time I've actually really done a short qualifying on this game at that point in time, and it was the first 50% I've actually tested, so I was very much going into the unknown. But as I said, you really need to go through things such as this, go out of your comfort zone a bit in order to discover new possibilities. So this is actually my fastest lap that I ended up doing. You might recognise the name Spanius, who I've discussed before. Very good friend of mine, and I think he's one of the fastest drivers on PlayStation. Actually holds quite a few world records himself, so this is definitely a good benchmark to be going against. And overall, when I was doing this lap, I felt like it was pretty good. I didn't feel like I could get that much more time out of it at all. But since this race, I can confirm I have improved by almost more than 6 tenths from this lap, so it really does show. In the moment, it might feel like it's impossible to gain the lap time, but the more you play the game and the more of the little things you discover that make a big difference, you'll be very surprised in how much you can improve. And just coming into the final braking zone now, which is incredibly hard to spot, managing to do this fairly nicely, getting a pretty good exit, and overall I felt like this was quite a good lap in itself, and it's a 26.9.
Yeah,
the
no
pole
way I can do
is a
26.6 in time
26.6,
trial.
and you can hear me say there's no way I can do that, as you're about to hear a bit more further here.
Definitely one thing is you need to heat up your tyres a lot before the lap. I think that's definitely I think it's actually hard to overheat the tyres in this game.
And yeah, what you hear me saying there about the tyres,
Oh yeah, you have to.
one thing I learned after this race
Park it
is
as
that
well,
you
haven't
do
you?
need to get your tyre
I have no
temperatures
idea how to do that.
a lot higher before the lap starts. On the previous game, it was around 87 to 88. The more optimal temperature now is in the low 90s, so this is something
Oh shit.
I learned from this, which is pretty significant. As you can see, we're lining up to the grid now with this new feature where you have to actually drive yourself into the grid. So this is the first time I did it as well. Never done it before this. So now we got 3 lights, 4 lights, 5 lights, and as they go out now, get a fairly okay start. Wasn't incredible. But going into here, Spanius, I think, was being extra kind here, since he's invited me to a social race. I think he just didn't want me to have an incident in turn 1, so I think he was being extra polite, because he could have easily kept that position, but no, I'll take it. And I'm now up in P2, and the guy in pole called Marios, a very nice pole lap and a very fast driver in himself. So in this video I will be showing you quite a bit of the raw footage, some few frustrations as well, which now in the moment when I drive, if you have been watching me for a while, I do wear the heart on my sleeve, and yeah, sometimes it's better to be more composed, which is definitely something I need to work on. When things are going against you, throwing your toys out the pram, it doesn't really do you many favours. But in a way, people deal with things their own way, and it's probably something I will always be to a degree, because I feel like it just releases that energy within me, as weird as it sounds. But yeah, it's
pretty fast.
as I'm saying, yeah, this guy is pretty fast, which he is, but yeah, definitely things to work on. But I know what really works for me, and yeah, it's just about putting it all together when it matters. So starting off this first lap, managing to stay with him quite nicely as we come into the first sector of lap 2. Safety car has now been deployed, so yeah, we found out it was actually quite sensitive. I think the lobby settings were set on safety car on full rather than reduced, and every time someone left or crashed, it deployed the safety car. So it might be a little bit sensitive as it was on the previous game. But you can see on the restart here, really important to get your tyres in the optimal window. And you know, as I said, every single lap I felt like I was learning something, and yeah, I know for a fact that if I went back on this race now, at this stage of the game, it would be a different level completely. And I think that's the case with everyone here as well. I think each week people are just finding more and more things that work for them, finding more lap time, and just getting more comfortable with the game. So I'm definitely driving, I felt, well, looking back on this now, definitely a level below of where I'm currently at on the game itself, as leader has a massive snap of oversteer, and for some reason he's ghosted, which seems to be a bit of a theme in this game where people ghost quite easily. But we're not really going to fight it too hard, because at this point of the race there's really no point trying to lead, because I'll just be wasting so much of the ERS. And you know what I've said in my videos, ERS is incredibly important on this game, because slipstream and DRS is just so ineffective. If you have track position and you have more ERS, you're pretty much almost impossible to overtake, unless you've got a severely different wing setup to the guy that you're racing against. So at this stage, I wasn't really that interested in going for move for the lead. And apologies, you might see a few notifications because I made a schoolboy error of allowing my notifications to appear in this race, but I have learnt from that, and they will not be there in the future. So few people just trying to be hilarious, but it is what it is. And if anything, it was just made the race harder, which made it made me have to concentrate in a bit more overtime. So making it harder than it really would be, I guess, isn't bad practice for the real thing. But you can see where I felt at this stage of the race I was definitely a bit faster than the race leader. So the race pace definitely seems to be quite nice, as everyone is fairly still close together at this stage of the race. But as we skip a little bit further down the line, going through the first sector, once again, let's see what happens here. And you can see we're really using the curves, which on PC you definitely can't, as the virtual safety car now comes out. So hopefully it's not going to be a full blown safety car, and yeah, that gives us a chance to recoup our ERS a bit. So we're just going to skip forward until it finishes. And if the virtual safety car stayed out for a bit longer, I probably would have pitted here, but it said it was finishing as we were coming off last corner. So if it was still continuing here, you actually save a lot of lap time, because the people around you are going much slower. So it's actually normally quite useful if you could pit under the virtual safety car, but since it finished there, you won't really go get any of the benefits, so we decided to stay out, follow what the leaders are doing, and now it looks like the top 3 has pulled away from the rest of the pack. And yeah, every single lap I was doing, I was definitely getting just more and more comfortable, and we're now actually being attacked by Spaniards, which now forces us to go for the lead of the race, which is something I didn't really want to do. But when someone's using their ERS and the overtake button, you kind of have no choice at times. So now we're up into the lead of the race, and let's see what our race pace is well and truly like, because I definitely felt I was a bit faster than the guy behind me, Marius, who was very, very fast in the qualifying. And if we look behind us now, there's like Spanius is actually going to overtake him as well. And I felt like Spanius was probably the faster of the 3 drivers at this stage of the race. And as I said, he's a very talented driver, someone who's, I've known him for quite a few years actually. He's someone who's really improved quite drastically within the past year or so. So as we finish the start of lap 11, moving on to lap 12, and on the exit of here again, I just want to try and conserve the battery as much as I can, because there really is no point just overusing it, because it's so hard to actually break out of someone's DRS zone. So Spanius, we're going to defend. We're not going to use the battery though. Try and force him to use a bit more than he anticipated. So he now takes the lead of this race, and we're just going to do our best to stick behind him and see what we can do, and maybe see if we can pull away or get out of the DRS zone of Marius, who is behind us. So on the exit of this corner, probably going to use a little bit of the overtake just to get that momentum. Don't want him to get out of our DRS zone. So we skip on to lap 13. The gap is pretty much the same. Starting to pull away from Marius behind. And you can see we haven't really used any ERS on this lap. And it's at the point where the pit window has opened for the hard tyres, because obviously in this game you can start on any tyre you wish. You're no longer restricted to what you qualified on, as Spanish now pits. So we're actually going to go on for another lap, because the tyres are quite cold when you come out of the pits on this game. And you can see we've actually broken out the DRS zone of Marius, so we really pushed on this in that, but our ERS is down to 17%. So coming into the pits here, at this stage of the game, I didn't have a button.
This thing's not going to work though. Like,
yeah, as you can see here, we didn't have a button that binded to turn into the pit stop. And I was pressing every button, but I had to actually reset my wheel in order for it to work, which has now been fixed. But you can see here,
serious?
Yeah, we got held. Man? We completely stopped in order to let this guy go, and you can see how much of a gap he's got ahead of us as well.
Serious?
So you're about to hear a bit of frustration here now, and as we come through here, yeah.
Fucking hell, man. I fucking hate these pit stops.
And yeah, like I said at the beginning of the video, this is an area that I definitely need to improve on when things go against me a bit. Not so much the timing of the pit stop, pressing the button because I couldn't do it, but being held there, just things like that. You just can't do anything about it. So yeah, it's okay to be emotional and just let out your frustration, but sometimes when you just keep going on about it, it definitely doesn't help you. And when you look back on it, it's much easier said than done. But yeah, that's definitely something I should work on, and I definitely am working on for the future. And kind of just lost our head a bit there, but thankfully we have actually been helped out by another safety car, so now we can actually repair this broken wing, and we're going to go on the soft tyres. And also the leaders of Spanius and Marius, they actually pitted for mediums, which the mediums they pitted for are actually the mediums they were on. You don't get a new set for the race, so their strategy, they didn't realise that, so they're going to have to actually pit again in this race. So at the moment we're actually in a good position, but we have picked up a 3-second time penalty for track limits, which normally is something I avoid quite comfortably, but around here yeah, actually picked up a few track limits, so we have that against us. But in terms of the pecking order, Spanius and Maris, they have to pit again, I believe, at this stage of the race itself, if they wish to get to the end, because they've pitted for the same medium tyres again. So yeah, but as we come down the inside of this guy, so I'm really doing an optimistic move there, and now we're up into P7, and the other guys who are on the softs, they are on the same freshness of softs as well, and I think I saved a fresh pair of softs for the race itself, so the race could actually still be salvageable. So let's see what our pace is going to be like now, as we do have the 3-second penalty. I kind of made me a bit more relaxed in the race because I knew I really had nothing to lose here, so I'm going to just see how many positions I can potentially gain, because there are a few medium runners ahead of me as well who started on the hard tyre and then they switched into medium. As the safety car has come out again, we're just going to give the opportunity for the likes of Spanius and Marius to now pit for the softs. It doesn't really make sense for me to pit, so I decided to stay out on these soft tyres since they're only about a lap so old at this stage as well. And now the safety car is come in already, and we resume on our way again. So you're going to be seeing a bit of raw footage here of the progress that we try and make coming to the end of it. So we're in P7. Guy ahead of me is on the same freshness of tyres as I am as well, and DRS is not going to be activated for 3 laps. So after a safety car, you have to wait for those 3 laps. But if it's a virtual safety car, then it will just keep continuing on from where it was before. So next up here, we're going to be using a bit of our overtake button, but then I think we turn it off quite early because we want to just save a little bit and let these guys try and use their battery as much as possible. I felt like I was definitely faster in the corner, so we're just gonna be nice and patient here, kind of let these guys trip over themselves, and yeah, just be patient for the opportunity. So trying to get a really good run coming on to this home straight. Gonna be using a bit of the overtake button here, but I think we turn it off early once again. So always trying to let people think that you're using the overtake button, because again, like I said earlier, if you have more ERS than someone else, it really is absolutely nothing you can do on this game. So I was just waiting for these guys to get to a lower state of the battery itself, and only go for an opportunity when I know 100% that the move is achievable. So coming through his first sector now, we're a little bit closer than we were on the previous lap, so I'm really almost pushing him round into this first sector. And going through here, I like to use the curbs around this part, which a lot of people don't. And going through here, he's actually gone quite wide, so what we're going to do is go get down the inside here. So another move down the inside. Seems to be a corner where I quite like to overtake around this circuit. Now we are using the battery here, because I thought he was going to be a little bit lower than me. And does he defend? Not really that much. So we had to use a bit, but not too much. And now we get the move done up into P5. So it's actually quite a fairly good recovery at this stage of the race. But now we skip on to the start of lap 26, setting the fastest lap as well for the fastest man on track right now. DRS has now been enabled, and the guy ahead of me I don't think is in the DRS zone of the guy ahead of him, so this is actually going to be suiting me really perfectly at this stage of the race. So let's see what we can do here. So taking the curbs once again, not going to be close enough to do an overtake into this corner, but we should be within the DRS zone, and I think he's just going to miss out on the DRS of the cars up ahead of him. So that's why I'm using all the battery here, because I thought he wouldn't be getting the DRS. Let's see if he does. No, he doesn't. So we're going to gamble everything on here. And is this red light flashing? Yes, it is flashing. So he's under 10%. So we're going to go down the inside here. He's on the medium tyres as well, so we should have the better traction. But he still manages to stay on the inside. So we're going side by side for the sequence of corners. But I have the inside for left, so he has to concede pretty nice racing there. So fair play to Nick, Freak, if I can read that correctly. Really, really fair racing. And everyone here is very fast, but very clean as well. And another safety car has now come out. But that does give us an opportunity to recoup the battery a little bit. The safety car will come in earlier to allow 2 laps of full racing to go. But the only issue is that DRS is not going to be enabled for the rest of this race. And I was pretty certain we had a higher battery percentage than the guys ahead of me. So now everyone else has reset again. And we're in P4, but we do have a 3-second time penalty when no one else around us actually does. And these guys are on the same level of freshness size as these guys. Why don't we do another move down the inside here? So this is quickly becoming our favourite corner on the circuit. And we're going to be using the overtake on the exit. But then trying to turn it off when we can, because I don't think he's going to be really trying to overtake us back. And now we're in P3 in this race, and the guy ahead of us is on hard tyres, and then the guy ahead of him is on mediums, so we should be much, much faster than him. It's just that if we can get past this guy as soon as we can, so coming through in this section, we do this pretty well. Trying to get a really good exit coming onto here, but it's pretty hard to get the traction. He gets a pretty poor exit. So we're going to be using our overtake button now, but we still don't have the DRS enabled, which would have been perfect right now. So it looks like he's not using his overtake. We're going to try and force him into mistake. So he goes offline, goes slightly deep. So we're going to try and go for the switchback here, which we do. But he still gets some pretty good traction, but then runs wide onto the curb and actually then concedes the position, which, again, I think he was being fairly polite here. But now we're in P2 in this race. See, our tyres are on about 40% wear because the softs do go off quite quickly on this game. And at this stage, potentially the mediums could be almost the same pace as the softs. But coming through into here, DRS is still not going to be enabled, and I think the guy in the lead has had a bit of an opportunity to save more ERS than I have, so we'll go give it everything for the rest of this lap and maybe try and pull 3 seconds on some of the guys behind to kind of negate the penalty that we have. So it looks like the guy ahead of us does have quite a bit of the ERS, and you can see under the braking with the soft tyres, we've just got so much more grip on these tyres right now. So we're just going to try and put as much pressure as we can on him, and you can just see him out of rotation and almost losing the car on the exit. So we really need to have the DRS here, but DRS is still not enabled. And using the overtake button, you can see we're going to be under 10%, but his red light is still not flashing. And if you look at the delta, he actually pulls away when we're in a straight line, which shows again, if you have more ERS, we do a bit of a dummy to the inside. If you have more ERS, you're pretty much impossible to overtake. But in the end, we come across the line in P2. A pretty good recovery. If we didn't have that issue in the pit stop, and obviously not the damage as well, but if we didn't get held in the pits and we actually kept our composure and all those kind of things, then I think we could have won this race fairly comfortably in the end as well. But as I said, this was a very good learning experience for me and really helped me discover many new things about the game. So I really hope you enjoyed my first competitive race experience on F1 22. League racing will be starting basically from next week when I do the BRS social race, the pre-season race. So that'll be next weekend on Saturday, 8 PM. Here's a link to the calendar as well. And yeah, thank you so much for the support on the videos. Make sure you sign up to Bybit for more opportunities for F1 paddock passes in the future. www.coachlimitless.com for one-to-one sessions with me. And I will be catching you very, very soon. Peace.